You think too much, don't you? Every moment folds into another, every thought dissected until it no longer resembles what it was meant to be. Your mind becomes a maze walls built from what-ifs and self-doubt, corridors echoing with the noise of unspoken fears. You don't live in moments anymore. You live around them, circling endlessly, afraid to touch anything real. You tell yourself it's intelligence, sensitivity, awareness. But what if it's just fear wearing a clever disguise? What if the very thing that makes you feel in control is the same thing that's devouring your peace from the inside out? Overthinking is the brain's attempt to create safety through control. You replay conversations, reanalyze choices, predict every possible future, all because you can't stand not knowing what comes next. Psychologists call it cognitive hypervigilance, a mind trained to detect threat even where none exists. You think if you anticipate every outcome, you'll protect yourself from pain. But the paradox is cruel. The more you think, the less you act. Your control tightens into paralysis. The world keeps moving while you drown in the noise of your own mind, mistaking motion for progress. Every decision you delay, every feeling you dissect, feeds the illusion that you're doing something important. But deep down, you know you're just stalling for safety that never arrives. So tell me, if control has never actually saved you, why are you still worshiping it? You don't think you dissect. Every memory, every word spoken, every silence left hanging becomes a corpse on your mental table. You carve through it, searching for meaning, hidden motives, emotional fingerprints. It's not analysis, it's an autopsy. You confuse clarity with control, reflection with obsession. Psychologists call this rumination, the looping of thoughts that no longer serve you. It's the mind devouring itself under the illusion of understanding. You replay moments not to learn from them, but to avoid the terror of uncertainty. And yet, each time you re-enter the same thought, it decays a little more, until truth itself becomes unrecognizable. You think you're gaining insight, but all you're really doing is rehearsing your own helplessness. When was the last time you thought something without immediately tearing it apart to see what it meant? Every choice is a battlefield. Every decision, no matter how small, unfolds into infinite consequences in your mind. Psychologists call this analysis paralysis, the freezing of action under the weight of imagined futures. You run simulations in your head. What if you say the wrong thing, choose the wrong path, become the wrong version of yourself? The more options you have, the less freedom you feel. Each possibility multiplies into another set of unknowns, and your brain, desperate for safety, starts mistaking thinking for preparation. But you never arrive. You live suspended between what could be and what never was, unable to step into the only thing that ever truly exists, the present moment. To the overthinker, possibility isn't liberation. It's a form of quiet torment, a maze with no exit, only mirrors reflecting regret that hasn't happened yet. If every road terrifies you, how will you ever learn which one was yours to walk? Fear is the engine beneath your thoughts, humming quietly beneath the surface. It's not fear of failure. It's fear of exposure, of being wrong, of being seen too clearly. Overthinking becomes a coping mechanism, a kind of emotional armor. Each thought is a preemptive defense, a strategy to avoid pain before it even happens. Psychologists call this anticipatory anxiety, your mind rehearsing catastrophe as if preparation could soften the impact. But the rehearsal is the impact. You feel the fear over and over, long before anything real occurs. You become both the victim and the perpetrator of your own unease. The mind learns to expect fear, then creates it, then calls it reality. You live inside a feedback loop that began as protection and mutated into self-punishment. You don't fear life because it's dangerous. Fear it because it's uncontrollable. So how can you ever find peace if the only thing you trust is your own terror? Your thoughts are never quiet. But it's not the noise that destroys you. It's what hides beneath it. Beneath every overanalyzed sentence and every mental replay is something raw, shapeless, and ancient. Emotion. Overthinking isn't intelligence gone wrong. It's emotion unprocessed. Psychologists describe it as emotional avoidance thinking in circles to avoid feeling in depth. You stay in your head because your body remembers too much. Every silence feels unsafe. Every pause a threat that something real might rise to the surface. So you fill the space with thinking, as if words could keep the ache contained. But thinking doesn't heal, it anesthetizes. The mind becomes a storm to drown the body's tremor. You call it introspection, but it's just noise management. You fear stillness because stillness forces you to hear what the thinking has been screaming over. What would happen if you finally stopped thinking long, enough to feel what's been hiding underneath it all? You are your harshest judge, aren't you? Every thought, every word, every choice is scrutinized under a microscope that only you hold. Psychologists identify this as perfectionistic rumination, the relentless mental inspection driven by self-criticism. You believe that if you find every flaw, you can fix yourself before the world notices, but the flaws multiply faster than your attention can contain them. Your mind becomes a tribunal, and you are both the accused and the executioner. Every mistake is amplified, every misstep internalized as proof that you are inadequate. You try to reason to quiet it with logic, but logic bends under the weight of emotional accusation. You dissect yourself endlessly, believing insight will liberate you, but liberation never arrives. Only the judgment remains, echoing in the hollows of your consciousness. You can't outrun it, because it is you, and you are inseparable from it. If the one who judges you never sleeps, how can you ever feel safe in your own mind? You are trapped in your own past, replaying moments as if they contain hidden keys to your survival. Psychologists call this memory rumination, the obsessive revisiting of events to extract lessons, corrections, or apologies that no longer matter. Your mind convinces you that understanding the past will prevent future pain, yet it never stops. Every conversation, every gesture, every slight becomes evidence that you could have done better, said more, seen deeper. You live in a timeline that only exists in thought, and the present is constantly bleeding into the past as if it were contaminated. The more you try to extract meaning, the more the memory mutates, reshaped by fear, guilt, and desire for control. You chase clarity, but clarity is an illusion. The past resists containment, whispers different versions of itself with each replay, and your mind obeys it blindly. If every memory is a trap you willingly walk into, who is left to live in the present? You think alone, endlessly, and in that solitude, the mind becomes a cage. Psychologists call this cognitive isolation, a state where intense internal processing separates you from others, even in their presence. Conversations are filtered through your mental sieve. Memories are weighed against imagined judgments, and every interaction becomes a rehearsal for critique. The world is always slightly out of sync with your internal dialogue, and slowly, imperceptibly, the walls close in. Overthinking doesn't just consume time, it consumes connection. You feel alien to others because your thoughts are labyrinthine, recursive, and often inaccessible, even to yourself. Yet, paradoxically, you cling to the belief that if you just think harder, you might bridge the gap, might finally understand, or be understood. Every thought designed to protect you from vulnerability instead deepens your isolation. You are surrounded by people, yet your mind ensures you are never truly present. If the cost of thinking is solitude, how long before you forget the warmth of being understood? You pride yourself on self-reflection, as if thinking deeply about yourself will uncover some hidden truth. Psychologists call this introspective obsession, the belief that insight can be gained by turning the mind inward endlessly. But reflection, for you, is recursive. Every insight loops back into doubt, Every answer generates new questions, and the more you try to understand yourself, the more elusive the self becomes. You dissect your motivations, analyze your desires, measure your morality, and each revelation only leads to new uncertainty. You think you are growing, but growth cannot exist in an endless spiral of evaluation. You become trapped in the mirror of your own mind, watching yourself endlessly adjust, critique, anticipate, and reconsider. Your reflection never settles. It mutates each time you gaze into it. You are certain you are learning, but what you are truly learning is that clarity is a mirage, and the mind that seeks it is both hunter and prey. If every reflection only deepens the fog, what is left to recognize at all? Every thought, every calculation, every prediction you make feels necessary, as if you are building a fortress of certainty. Psychologists describe this as intolerance of uncertainty, the need to know, predict, and control everything to avoid discomfort. But the fortress is built on sand, each brick a fear, each wall a doubt, and the moment you think it stands firm, reality shifts. Life by design is unpredictable, and your mind's desperate attempts to cage it only magnify the chaos. The more you overthink, the less stable you feel, the less anchored in your own existence. You cling to knowledge, rehearsal, reflection, judgment, but certainty is not a thing you can grasp. It is a mirage that dissolves under scrutiny. Every attempt to fix your thoughts, to quiet the mind, only exposes how fragile the illusion was all along. You live in anticipation of control, yet control never comes. If certainty is a mirage and the mind its prisoner, what remains when even thinking fails you? You have followed your mind to the edge, and here is the truth it has always withheld. Thinking itself is not salvation. It is the architect of your torment. Every mental loop, every rehearsal, every dissection of self and memory has led you here, to a place where clarity and confusion are indistinguishable. Psychologists call this metacognitive rumination, the awareness of your own obsessive thinking, layered upon itself, recursive and unrelenting. You sought insight, you sought control, you sought understanding, but all that was ever built was a house of mirrors. You see yourself, but only fragments. You touch reality, but only shadows. The present slips through your grasp, while your mind endlessly churns what has passed and what might come. There is no wisdom here, only the echo of your own anticipation, the shadow of your own fear. And now, in the silence between thoughts, you confront it. If the mind that was meant to guide you has become the jailer of your own existence, who are you when the thinking finally stops?